What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So what I want to discuss today is the possibility of the child tax credit payments being extended. I want to give you a little bit of a stimulus update, talk about what is going on, because right now there's some discussions that a bipartisan bill could potentially be in the works, but I want to address where this is coming from and why. First off, there's a lot of discussions that have been happening lately, and according to multiple Senate aides, they believe that the Build Back Better Act will not pass in 2021. Also, these aides are both Republican and Democrat, so it's not just one party that's saying that this bill isn't going to pass. Too many lawmakers at this time. They're also siding with Senator Joe Manchin, saying that, you know what, because of inflation, we should potentially hold off on this. There's not much in this bill that is really going to impact the American people, except negatively. So, what if we just hold off? Well, here's where there's even more disagreements as well. Because right now within the bill, many people don't 100% support it because of the paid family leave, because of things like some of the climate initiatives. We also got things like the extension of Medicare, and obviously the overall price tag of this bill, and then we got to deal with the tax provisions as well. So here's what I can tell you. We know Senator Joe Manchin is going to meet with President Biden sometime this week. Could happen today, but it could also happen later on this week. President Biden just wants to get Senator Joe Manchin's support on this bill. But this morning, even Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, he questions the possibility of even getting this bill passed. Some say that this doesn't have a chance to pass in the Senate, at least at this time. But one thing that multiple Senate aides have said over the past week is that there has been multiple discussions on different provisions. But one of the main discussions has been pretty much on the child tax credit payments. Here's the reason why. Right now, what we're hearing is that Democrats are pushing to get Senator Joe Manchin on board because they say we cannot let the child tax credit payments lapse. They can't expire because right now, in just 2 days, on December 15th, is when we will see the final payment for the child tax credit payments. Now, here's why I want to bring this up. There's even been discussions on passing a bipartisan bill to keep these payments going. Now, we know these payments have cut child poverty in half. Some people have said that these are a necessity for lower income earners and middle income earners. But according to reports just the other day, anything that passes must be passed before December 28th. If it is not, then the problem is it would not actually take effect until possibly February, which means we would see a delay in payments, which could actually pull people back into poverty. But here's what I want to address. Right now, the facts are that Democrats are pushing they're pushing different agendas. But one of the things that they're trying to push more than anything is we have to keep these child tax credit payments going. So, according to reports over the past couple of days, what has been floated is the idea of passing a child tax credit payment as a standalone bill and doing it with 60 votes in the Senate, which means it would pass through the filibuster. Here's what I want you to understand. Experts say that if this were the case, this would most likely pass. But here's the thing. We would only extend it for a possible 1 more year. Now, why would we do this? Well, according to experts, they say this is going to be very similar to when we passed the enhanced unemployment benefits and the pandemic unemployment assistance, the PUA. And that's for self-employed workers. But here's what you need to keep in mind. When we pass these things, the reason why there was such a need for an additional bill, and again, these things, I'm not talking about the American Rescue Plan, because that was done through a budget reconciliation. I'm talking about the bill that was passed under former President Donald Trump I think it was signed into law on like December 27th or something of last year. Now, the reason why this was passed and the reason why many lawmakers pushed for this was because it came down to a deadline. There was a deadline. That deadline was unemployment benefits were expiring. We needed to pass, or they already expired at that time, I believe. We need to pass something to continue on to make sure people that didn't have an income, didn't have a job, were continuing to be supported through this unemployment assistance. Well, that brings us to where we are today. If people do not have a job, or if people need this additional assistance from the child tax credit payments, how can we honestly accept this if we do not extend it? What do we do? And this is where many lawmakers say that this is where a standalone bill would actually be a huge benefit to millions of families. Not only that, it would take out one of the pieces of this bill. It would take it out from this budget reconciliation, which would make it easier for Democrats to pass the next bill. So you're probably thinking, well, would Democrats even go for this? Yes, they would, because it would be easier to pass the next bill. But would Republicans go for this? The expectation as of right now, according to multiple Senate aides, is that yes, there would be more than 60 votes on this bill. And yes, Republicans would most likely go for this because this wouldn't be seen as a way to increase the national deficit. But here's what you need to keep in mind. Would this payment still remain at $3,000 for a child between the ages of 6 and 17, or $3,600 for a child between the ages of 0 and 5? Possibly not. So even though Republicans would go for this, it would most likely have to bring the payment down probably no higher than $3,000 for anybody. Most likely it would be closer to $2,000. So keep this in mind. Here's the reason I want to bring this up, is because if we see these payments come down, instead of $3,000 or $3,600, we're seeing something along the lines of $2, $25, or even $3 across the board. What that's going to do is going to make things cheaper. Right now it costs about $180 billion a year to keep this child tax credit payment going. But if we bring it down to, let's say, $150 billion per year, and this is a payment advance on a tax credit that people would receive, what we are hearing is that Republicans might make it where you have to have a job. That's the only stipulation. You have to have a job and file your taxes in order to get these payments. And then you would get a monthly payment every single year, or every single month for the entire year. But if you don't file your taxes, right, then that's where things become very questionable. Now, we don't know any of the details because honestly, I don't think a bill has even been, well, I know one hasn't been proposed. I don't know if they're just floating this idea to see how many people would support this. But what I can tell you is that I think this would actually make things easier to pass. It would provide more assistance to parents. That would be great. But again, some lawmakers are going to come out and say, well, it doesn't provide the assistance to everybody. We don't have that blanket approach. We don't have a stimulus check that goes out to everybody. Stimulus check at this time, honestly, I don't see it happening. But what I do see happening is splitting up the bill. That would be a little bit easier. And if they do not have to split it up and do a budget reconciliation on a standalone bill, I think that would be so much simpler. But that's what we're hearing at this time. Now, I just wanted to fill you in on this because I haven't been talking a lot about the child tax credit payments. I've been doing a little bit more research on Social Security and things of that nature, because those are some of the main people that are really hurting, is people on Social Security. So I promise, as soon as I know more regarding the updates we're seeing here, regarding the rumors that we've been that kind of been floated around over the past few days, I promise I'll fill you in on those updates and all the latest news. But again, just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.